plans. Now it should work. Hi, everyone. Hi, YouTube. I think I'm on StreamYard. It's recording. I'm live. I can have guests on here. This is pretty fun. I've never used the StreamYard platform before. Not a sponsored video, but maybe one day it will be with your support. I appreciate you guys all being here. So I have, this is our 14th AMA. This is really fun to do these calls and answer your questions. I'm live in the Telegram group often, and not live, but I mean, I'm answering questions in there. So I encourage you to join the Telegram. Discord, I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do it. There's a lot more people in the Discord. Discord's a crazy world out there where there's just like all kinds of fake people and real people, and everything's kind of like a little more anonymous, but it moves much faster. I kind of like the Telegram better. It's a little simpler, but whatever. I'm here today because I have some questions that I need to answer, and I'm going to go to the PowerPoints that I have with all the questions in it and help you guys out with these questions. And if you're on the live event, I have one or two people here. I have 4 people here right now. You can put your questions in the chat, and I'll try and answer your questions with priority first, because I want to encourage people to come watch it live. It's fun. Okay, so I'm going to start with that question. I'm not going to bring up my PowerPoint yet. I'm going to, what's the PowerPoint? Just the format for the list of questions that I have. I guess, Danny, you're in the chat too. Everything's good from the live. You guys can hear me. There's good audio, good sound. You can see me. It's all working, right? Okay. Comment if it isn't. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to start with my question in the chat. Hi, James. If I open an account to Levro or Airwallex for my LLC in New Mexico, which use banks in FDIC, they use a bank in Europe for the European accounts. Okay, so the question here is, if I have a Wise or an Airwallex account for my LLC that allows me to hold different currencies, would that be considered a separate bank for FBAR purposes? And that's a great question, because what I've discovered in doing this professionally for a while is that the LLC is considered a U.S. person for foreign bank account purposes. So technically, the LLC would have to file an FBAR if it had foreign accounts. It's kind of weird, and I'm not 100% confident on the format, because I haven't had to do this before. The 114, the form 114 is quite simple. It's a basic form. But to answer your question, I do not believe you need to file an FBAR, because these companies are registered in the United States and you opened it with U.S. companies. So Wise has licenses in the U.S. to operate this kind of business. So I see Wise, and even Airwallex is an Australian company, but I believe they have U.S. licenses. So is I'm going to Google it. Lex registered in the U.S. Yeah, they're registered as a money service business with FinCEN. So I don't know if it's considered a foreign bank account if it's registered with the Financial Crimes Network to do business in the United States, and you registered with the U.S. company. So it looks more like it's a U.S. based thing. So you don't have to. You see my head behind here. Shut up, Tony. So you can get distracted here. So you don't need to file an FBAR in that case. But that's a good question. That's funny. Tony says we can see. I asked if the camera is working. Tony says we can see your head but not your hair. That's funny, because I was really thinking like, oh, I gotta move the camera. Okay, the question is that for euros, Wise gives a European IBAN. I really don't think that I really don't see it as a foreign bank account, because it's really a U.S. institution with a foreign, with like foreign services in it. I don't have any guidance on it. If you want to be super safe and report that, you certainly can. You can report it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm under the understanding, if you're registering with a U.S. company, like for example, if you have your account is with Airwallex, your account is with Wise, and it's registered in the U.S. and you open it with a U.S. company. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that it's a U.S. account. Just because they have a European IBAN, the account is ultimately created with a U.S. company between two U.S. companies. So I don't know. I wouldn't. I have, so that's an example. I have those accounts. I have a European account with AirWallex. I personally didn't report an FBAR. I didn't have any money in it really, but I really don't think it would be required. If you opened, it would be definitely required if you took your LLC and opened a bank account in Spain or in another country, but that's a little different. That's like a real bank and it's opening in another country. It's just not likely. That's why I never talked about that much in the past, is because it's just unlikely that people would do that or have a need to do that. So we haven't, I don't talk about it too much. But that's a good question. And I don't think if you file it, I don't think you're wrong for filing it. If you want to do the report, I don't do it personally. And I haven't done any other research into it technically. I can see though that they are licensed in the US. So I guess we could say the same about other banks that are, it's not even a bank account, honestly. Foreign bank account or foreign. Yeah, that's another good point is that I don't know about CRS, how CRS works with them, but technically AirWallex and Wise aren't banks. They're EMIs, electronic money and monetary or money intermediaries. So they're not really even banks. So it's a little, it's like having your money in like a kind of like a PayPal account, but even PayPal, I think it has FDIC insurance. So it's a little tricky. I don't have all the perfect answers for you. But I don't think it'd be required to file. But if you want to, if you have a lot of money in there and you think there's risk, then you can certainly file and there's nothing wrong. You don't lose anything. It's just an extra thing you have to do. Yeah, it's just a money transmitter. Yeah, it's AirWallex on there's a Forbes article that says um, let's see, I'm looking at different stuff. Okay, AirWallex lets you open accounts in different currencies without going near a bank. So an excellent global account if only they accept you, says these guys. Multi-currency transfer currencies. So they do help you with local bank accounts. It says local bank accounts here. What is this article from? It's from a year old. I'm just doing a little bit of research because it's a good question. Okay, let's open. Who must file an FBAR? It says financial interest in or signature authority over foreign financial accounts. Let me try the StreamYard thing. Yeah, I'm gonna try and share my screen. Sorry guys, I'm using a different platform, obviously, as you can see, to do live right now. I think it's gonna be better, but I'm still trying to figure out how to share my screen. Oh, here we go. Present. Oh, I have an extra camera. Present screen. So can you guys see this FBAR reference guide? I mean, there's a lot of, let's Google what is a, a foreign financial account for the FBAR. There you go. Who must file? U.S. person, and you got, I think you can see the screen. A U.S. person, citizen, resident, corp, partnership, limited liability company, trust in a state must file an FBAR to report a financial interest, aggregate value. Generally, an account at a financial institution located outside the United States is a foreign financial account. See that? So if I'm saying that it's obviously an online business, there's not Airwall X and Y's, the biggest ones that do this. I mean, there's a lot of companies that do EMI services, but these guys are licensed in the U.S. and located only online. So since I wouldn't file personally. Okay. Owned by internet. You don't need to report financial accounts that are owned by an international financial institution. Okay, yeah, I'm sticking to my guns there. I don't think we have to do that. I think that was working. Stop screen. Okay. Okay, next question. I have a U.S. company only for using Stripe as a payment processor. My clients are outside the U.S. and I'm a non-U.S. person. I saw a video of you before about a similar case that I don't have to pay taxes. But what about file? What file should I send? I heard you say 1040 or 1120 with 5472. Or if I didn't send any, I'm fine, no penalty. Yeah, I mean, we talk about this a lot. If you have an LLC and you're a non-resident and you have transactions with the LLC, you paid to open it or close it, you have to file Form 5472. The Form 5472 is prepared with a pro forma, Form 1120, with a stamp at the top, and then the Form 5472 behind it, and it has to be faxed. It has to be done a specific way. If there's two owners, then you have to file a 1065 to report your business operations. Okay, I'm not going to go in too crazy about this because I talk about this on every other video, but that's a good question. Okay, I have a Wyoming registered LLC. Can I get a sales tax ID in another state with the same LLC, or must I register a new company in each state? Another good question. If you have an LLC in Wyoming, you can register that Wyoming LLC in every state. You can register it. It's for sales taxes, really, is what you would register it for, and that's how you get a resale certificate. We do this for a lot of clients. We open Wyoming LLCs, and we get Florida real estate. Resale certificates, and that allows them to avoid paying sales taxes on the purchases for resale. And it's very helpful, and it's great because you can keep the anonymous LLC, and you can, obviously you still have to register in Florida, but you are only registering for sales tax. If you register your company to do business in every state, you have to pay fees in every single state every single year. So generally, you're just registering for sales taxes in each state. Number 3, I want to form a new LLC because New Mexico, SaaS and digital products are taxable. So I'm getting taxed on Facebook ads at 7.75%, which is a lot. And I agree. And that's something that we found about New Mexico LLCs. That's kind of a reason not to get one. Sure, you're going to save on your $60 every year on your renewal, but you have to pay 8% almost on digital sales and payments to run ads. Facebook will actually charge you that 7.75%, and they'll add it to your bill when they charge you. So if you're running ads, they are going to generally be charging you. And Facebook, is a fast mover because they're one of the biggest ad platforms out there. But other platforms are going to do the same. I imagine Google does the same. I haven't seen a receipt like I have with Facebook. So the question here is, should I form a different LLC, for example, in Delaware with no tax and anonymous? Yes, if you're going to run ads in Facebook and you don't want to pay this 8%, I would open. I like Wyoming still. It's a little bit cheaper to renew and run and everything. Delaware also works. So it's up to you. You can also try using a non-New Mexico address. Maybe that will work. Maybe you can get an address somewhere else and try that if you need to, like, if it's going to be really expensive for you to flip the company like that. And the follow-up question is, or do a combo New Mexico LLC owning a Florida LLC? Does this complicate things? I am a non-resident. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have it just buy an LLC underneath your LLC, especially because it still might be hard to register stuff. I would just open another LLC in your name. We only really do stacks of LLCs for asset protection, and only in certain situations. Hey, Federico has a follow-up question here about the, well, not really a question, a comment, that it has multi-IBAN in euros. The IBAN starts in BE, Belgium. Like I said, we went over the page, and I really think that it says, I don't think that it says, I can read that it says, generally an account at a financial institution outside the U.S. is a foreign financial account. Whether the account produces taxable income has no effect on whether the account is a foreign account for FBAR purposes. So the thing is that I don't know if Wise and AirWallex are even considered financial institutions. That they're not banks, so they're not really financial institutions. Like I said, they're just they're currency. They're like currency accounts. They're like they just hold your money, but it's not the same as a bank. They don't have any protections like a bank does. So I'm still on the fence. I haven't seen any definitive information from the IRS about it. They would never know. If that makes you feel better, it's only if there's some kind of crazy. The times when the IRS is really, really harsh on this is back in 2012 when I was working in public. So we'll preface this as another question, or we can continue with the old question. It's really when is the IRS harsh on FBAR compliance? And it's not really the IRS. The FBAR, the foreign bank account reporting, is sent to FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Network. It's not even an IRS thing. It's not a tax thing. But the Financial Crimes Network, FinCEN, and the IRS were imposing these crazy taxes on people who weren't complying. When it was Americans with Swiss accounts in 2012, when they created FATCA, all these guys with Swiss accounts got their stuff disclosed to the IRS. They all got huge penalties and huge taxes imposed because they were hiding money offshore and not paying their taxes on it. So that's when the IRS is really aggressive. If you're a foreign person with an LLC that has an account and it's like questionable, maybe it's an account, you're not the person the IRS is going after. I've had Americans who've had foreign accounts and they never reported them. We reported them all late and never have a problem. It's really when you're hiding income from the IRS that they really hit you with the penalties here. So if you're not subject to tax and you have an account that questionably could be considered a foreign bank account for FinCEN and you didn't file for your LLC, I would be really, really surprised if you have any problems. And then if you do have problems, you can't get out of them with a decent defense. So, I don't really think it's a huge issue for you. Kaysar Shazad, that's an awesome name, Shazad. Please, sir, explain how to get the ITIN. That's a great question. So I'm going to jump to this question. And the ITIN is you have to send in a form W-7 to the IRS. You need a reason to file W-7. If you Google search form W-7 and you look at the top, there's like 8 reasons. Generally, what we do is we show that you have a reason to file a U.S. tax return. And from there, we file a U.S. tax return, we attach the form, and then the IRS in like 8 months gives you the ITIN. That's how you get it. You need to send a certified passport with this, or you need to work with a certified acceptance agent, or you need to send your actual passport, which please don't do that. It's going to make me sad if I see people sending their passports to the IRS. You're not going to get back for 8 months, if you even get it. So that's how you get the ITIN. And then a follow-up question here is, Tony said, what's the best way to build credit score after getting an ITIN? So I did a deep dive in this like a week or two ago before tax season got a hold of me. And to build a credit score for an I-10 is a little complicated. The way you build your credit score is by getting credit. So there's no disputing there. The way you build a credit score is by getting credit cards, getting loans, and getting agencies to report those loans to the credit bureaus. It's been a goal of mine to make a better process for this to help my clients get the credit, but I haven't been able to devote the time to it yet. I want to be able. There's different companies that will report loans to the credit agencies. You basically pay them every month, and it's basically they give you like a loan, and you're basically paying them to give you a loan to report it to the credit agencies so you can build your credit, because that's the way you build your credits, by getting loans. So you need so you need to get credit cards and loans and stuff to build your credit, and that allows you to get more loans and credit cards and stuff. But obviously it's difficult to get the first one set up. It's good to start with secured credit cards in the US. I mean, it's one of the only options. If you have a family member or friend that has credit cards or debts and they can put you on it as like a signee, that will work too. I'm still on, my parents have a credit card they've had for 30 years and it has a $30,000 credit limit, and I'm on it. I've never spent it or seen it, but it helps my credit score. So, I mean, I'm just, that's something that some American families will do, and they have their traditional family. I'm an entrepreneur and everything. My parents have like a house and a mortgage and have their stuff. They both have perfect credit scores, and it's just from years of having loans and debts. They've had mortgages for 40 years. They paid it on time for 40 years straight. So they're very good to lend to. People lend them money because they know they'll pay for it, and that's what a credit score is measuring. And just getting started is tough. Another quick thing I learned about the I-10, when you have an I-10, you can't use Experian or TransUnion to pull up your credit scores. It's a little bit different. You have to like write a letter. From what I understand, what I've been reading, you have to write a letter and request a manual credit score thing. So I'm still figuring out how this is like the best way to operate all this, so that it can be beneficial for the clients. I know it can work. I've read it a bunch of places, like you can build it and you can associate with that. I don't know why the agencies don't connect this to your credit score like that, like they will with a social. Maybe it's not the same database. I'm not sure, but it's not easy, Tony. It's possible, but it's not easy. But to answer your question, the best way is to get a secured credit cards. Bank of America will do this. Citibank will do it sometimes. Capital One will do it sometimes. It's really inconsistent with the banks that I find out that are doing it. But I've seen it at Wells Fargo. The major banks will do it, not Chase, not very much. But Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and Citibank can give you these accounts, secured accounts. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the questions. And Danny, let me know when I'm at the end so I can go to the Spanish one. I don't even know how that's going to work on here. Where am I at? Where's my questions? That's another question. Good question. I'm going to answer that first. Eli says, hi, James. If I create an LLC as a non-resident, multi-member LLC, do we need to get an ITIN number? You don't need an ITIN number unless you are required to pay taxes in the U.S. personally, or unless you want to claim a refund for taxes paid personally. They will want you to get an ITIN, because there's a lot of noise on the internet about what you need an ITIN for. You generally need it to keep a U.S. PayPal account open, and you definitely need it to file a U.S. tax return. That's the intended purpose of the ITIN, is the individual taxpayer identification number. So it's not a social, it's a taxpayer identification number. So it's to file tax returns. But if you don't have a non-U.S. if you don't have a U.S. trade or business and it's a multi-member LLC, you can put foreign and you don't even need an ITIN. So it's perfectly fine. And even sometimes when I have clients that have ITINs, I'll still put foreign on the K1, and I can still electronically file that K1 or that partnership return. So you don't even need an ITIN in that circumstance if you don't want to get one. This is a question from Tony. He asked the other day, but I'm going to touch on it here. James, can I use a personal Stripe account to cash in what I sell for my LLC business, or must the Stripe account be under my LLC name? I really haven't seen many people using personal Stripe accounts. They're not I just don't see that many people using it. I guess you would have less liability protection. I understand like what you're selling your own service, like you're selling your name. Like my LLC account's James Baker, LLC or whatever. So if you bought from James Baker and you're paying to do stuff with James Baker, it doesn't really matter. But obviously, if you're selling like Leatherfoot shoes and you sell leather shoes and it's called Leatherfoot Shoe Brand, and then when they swipe the card, it says you paid James Baker, and you're like, what? And it doesn't match up. I don't know how that works. I would recommend you open more accounts. Stripe is really easy to open multiple accounts. I honestly have like 8 or 9 Stripe accounts right now. Whenever you I have a separate one for Kajabi, a separate one for Thrivecart, a separate one for a different website. I have different brands. I just like to play around with this stuff, as you guys know. I haven't gotten banned from Stripe yet. I've had accounts get closed because I applied for them wrong, or whatever. They don't like the level of risk associated with the account. Like you guys know, I'm testing this stuff out for you, so I'm seeing what we can do. But I would open multiple Stripe accounts because they can close it any day. And if you apply for another one and they say no, you don't lose anything. They're not going to close your other account. Like I said, I've had like 3. Let's say I've had 3 or 4 accounts closed. I still operating 8 different Stripe accounts. So I would definitely apply for a business Stripe account. And if you're a non-US person, the trick is that when you have to put your tax ID, there's a little box next to it because you probably don't have a social security number, and that's where it defaults to. But you can click on the other box and change the country, and you can use your tax ID from your home country. And again, this is mostly for KYC, so they can know their client. So that I would use an LLC account. You can. The answer is yes. You can use your personal account if you want. There's no problem with it. But it's better to use the business account, especially for you, Tony, because if you're in the U.S. paying taxes, you don't want the IRS to come and say, oh, well, this isn't business income, this is personal income subject to self-employment taxes, blah blah blah. So it's a little bit more important for an American to do it, or U.S. resident citizen to do it the right way. Okay, question 5. Okay, when should my LLC partnership, multi-member LLC, file form 1042? Generally, there's a whole series of forms. There's a 1042, the blank one, 1042S, 1042T, 1042 ST, the regular. I think there's one. No, I think it's just the S and the T in the regular one. It's a series of forms. And these forms are used when a U.S. company is withholding taxes on withholdable payments to non-residents. So typically for me, I file these forms when I have a foreign-owned corporation. So if I have a Mexican company that owns a U.S. corporation and they're sending dividends back to Mexico, or an Italian-owned corporation, again, corporation, and a corporation is a U.S. taxpayer that's paying tax in the U.S. and reporting on the worldwide income. So when it's foreign-owned and that U.S. corporation is paying dividends back to the shareholders, withholding taxes are required. Sure, there's treaty rates. If you're sending dividends back to Mexico, in most instances you can use the treaty, and it's only 5% withholding. But that's where you're reporting on the 1042. You're showing the withholding. You're showing the payments. You're doing the withholding. You're sending it all out, and you have to pay it to the IRS. Okay, so that's only required when there is withholding. If you're a foreign-owned company with no U.S. trade or business, then you're never going to file this form, because if you don't have a U.S. trade or business, you don't have to withhold taxes on any payments to other countries in any instance, unless you are, I guess, if you have, because it's supposed to be U.S. source. It's only if you have U.S. real estate with foreign tenants who won't give you a W-8 ECI, then you would have to withhold taxes on payments to them. But it's super uncommon. It's really not it really doesn't happen. I've never done it or heard of it. this being required, the 1042, especially in this instance. Now that I've given you 4 minutes of background, I'm going to give you the actual question. I have a contractor in Spain and one more in Mexico. I pay them monthly for their services. I was told I should file this form and withhold 24% for tax purposes. That's a lot and confusing. I don't know who told you that. I don't think you should. I pay people outside the U.S. who are contractors, and I never withhold taxes. And I'll get to your. So I never withhold taxes because it's not required, and this is something that. Let me see how I can touch on this again. Adapt income, and I'm going to share my screen again, but from over here, so that I can see how it works. Present screen. Window. Cool. So you can see here. Oh, cool. Okay. So you can see here FDAP income. The IRS talks about it. Oh, this is a presentation. I don't care about this. I want to see this. So this is fixed determinable annual periodic income. This is what's subject to withholding. Treatment of FDAP income, which is not effectively connected income. So tax at a 30% rate applies to FDAP income from U.S. sources, but only if they're not effectively connected with your U.S. trade or business. So these are from U.S. sources. And even now in this question, if you're a foreign business that has nothing in the U.S., it's not U.S. source income. So even these payments aren't subject to U.S. withholding. And this is mostly referring, I think, to the rental income. Compensation is the biggest confusing thing here. Compensation for personal services. Those are FDAP income. But this is going to be U.S. sources, right? So if you have a U.S. company, like if my business, because I'm in the U.S. and I have companies, if I'm paying, if I let's say I have a contractor in Costa Rica and I pay him every month and he's great, and he comes and lives in the U.S. or he's here on a tourist visa and he's working in the U.S. and I pay him here, I should technically withhold taxes on that payment to him at 30%, unless there's a treaty rate. There's no treaty with Costa Rica, I don't believe. So that's when there would be withholding required on the compensation, is if they're being performed in the U.S. Okay, so these are almost never performed in the U.S. You said your contractors are in Spain and Mexico, so that's why you don't have to withhold taxes. There's like 3 reasons why. First of all, they're not performing services here. Second, it's not U.S. source income because you're not in the U.S. There's all these different sides to look at these questions. So it's really interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the next question. Okay, good question. In this question, they said the question is, how do I open an FTX US account for my LLC? That's really the question. And here's the long form. You've mentioned in one of your AMA that you opened institutional accounts for LLCs owned by non-US residents, and registering one of the required documents for key persons of the business who are not US persons is recent proof of address. When you registered for a non-US person, do you provide proof of address for an address in the US? Or did you provide proof of address in the country where the key person is currently a resident? I'm asking because I want to open an institutional account under my LLC, but I'm not sure if I could be proof of address for my LLC. So in my experience, I would try first with your address abroad, with your proof of address where you're currently living. I think it should work. And what's cool about FTX is if they say it don't work, they'll ask you for another document or they'll ask you for additional proof. Generally, you should use a business address in the U.S. for your LLC. I mean, your LLC is in the U.S. You have a business address in the U.S., but I would try that first. And if it doesn't work, apply again or figure out something else you can do, because you need some kind of proof of address. You could get a sublease or something. Honestly, it's been really easy. It's been surprisingly easy to get these accounts opened. And I've tried to open accounts for Binance, and it's so crazy to ask for a lot more information. And for me, they took like 4 months to get back to me. And then they wanted more stuff. They wanted proof of this, proof of that, proof. And I'm just thinking, like, why would I'm just going to use FTX, because I'm not going to deal with all of this crazy back and forth just so I can use your stable coin. I think that's crazy how they got rid of all the other stable coins. I don't know if it's crazy, but I get it. In any case, my answer is you have to try it and see how it goes, and then try it again if it doesn't work. I think you can get it open, though. I would use your own address first, because I believe this is KYC, know your client. I think they're just trying to verify who you are more than confirm you have a U.S. residency. But I could be wrong. You have to apply again. How are we doing on time, Danny? I know I got to do the Spanish questions. I got to jump in that other language. Let me see. Where am I at? What's my screen? I'm halfway done. So I'm going to have to, let's see how many more. I want to answer Nancy's question. I'm going to blaze through question 7 and question 8, and then I'm going to jump on in Spanish, guys. So if you like Spanish speaking, jump on Tu Empresa en America, and I'll see you on my Spanish channel. So Nancy has a quick question. Thanks for being here, Nancy. The U.S. LLC wants, okay, take a breath. U.S. LLC wants to charge a client in Europe a certain fee. What needs to be showcased on the invoice from a legal point of view? I need more facts here, Nancy. So what is the LLC doing? Who's paying who? And what's the service for? So the U.S. LLC is charging a European client for something, and the European client wants to withhold VAT taxes on the service. I mean, if that's the case, if they're required to do that, then maybe you should open an AirWallex account and have them pay you in local currency and then convert it yourself. Maybe there's ways around it. I'm always looking for ways around it. So consider something like that, a Wise or an AirWallex local account, so they can send you a local wire, and then you can convert it yourself. Because that might be a way. So you're offering consulting services to a European client, amazing, and they want to withhold VAT taxes. I mean, there's nothing you can do to stop them from withholding taxes if they're required to. You can charge them more, so you make sure you get what you're charging. So if you charge them $10,000, you don't want to get $8,000 because they withheld 20 for taxes. You say, look, I need to get 20,000. So charge me, tell VAT you're paying me 12.5, and then give me 10 and pay the taxes that way or whatever. Or you can say, look, what if I give you a Europe account? Can you send it to this European account and not charge VAT or whatever? You might have to work through it. I don't know all the VAT rules of all the countries out there, but those are what I'm thinking. You have to negotiate with your client, because these are Europe rules. And if they can't help you, then you have to charge them more, have them cover the VAT, or maybe you can find a way around it with a foreign account or something. So let me know. Come back next week, Nancy. Let me know what happens. Hopefully you get it resolved in a week. I mean, I don't know if you can get Wise opens European accounts pretty quick. But yeah, go for it. Hopefully it works out. John Edwin, yo voy a contestar esto cuando yo inicio mi presentación en español en como 10 minutos, menos que 10 minutos en mi otro canal. Okay. Next question. I have a corporation registered in Delaware. I'm going to receive payroll. I am not a resident for the state. Do I need to register the company for unemployment living in California? So if you have a company in Delaware and you live and work in California, California is very strict about this. They will want you to register your company to do business in California. And if you're going to do payroll for yourself, like W-2 payroll, this is for a U.S. person living in the U.S., you do need an unemployment tax number in California. You need to register for that in California and pay that additional tax, as well as income tax and income tax withholding. If you have, there's probably a better way to do it. If you're making a lot of money, or like even decent money, if you make it like 60 grand a year, I would schedule a private call, and because there's a lot going on here and it's too much for me to speculate on this. So I would consider that. Darlena, this is a live video and it's going to be posted on the channel. So I'm live on YouTube, and it's going to be posted like as is. So it's going to be here. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna jump. I only have 30 minutes left, so I have to jump on to my Spanish channel. The last question I have here is well, I have a couple more questions. I only got I answered Q10, Danny. Q9. Yeah, so I'm gonna jump on the Spanish channel, everyone, because I always spend too much time on the English one because I start here and I just love talking in English. So I will see you all on Tu Empresa en America channel. Otherwise, I will see you all here next week. I'll be here next week. You can join the Telegram group or the Discord group, and I answer questions in there from time to time, and I'll answer them again here. And if you want to work with us to open your companies or to get help with the tax compliance or anything specific, if you have a problem you need fixed, send us an email, and that's what we do professionally. And that's who I'm here to help, especially getting stuff set up and for Americans paying less taxes, all of that stuff. So thanks for being here, and I will see you guys all later. Darlene, come back next week and ask more questions, and I'll talk to you all later. Okay, I got to figure out how to go to the next video. Okay, see you guys on Tu Empresa.